We have an additional second reading. It is for Ordinance 011-2026, an ordinance amending Title 7 by adding Chapter 74 to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Florence, Kentucky, regulating motor vehicle queues on all public streets and rights-of-way originating from commercial, industrial, and non-residential properties that create obstructions on public rights-of-way and causing public safety hazards. The effect of this ordinance is to create a new section of Title 7 by adding Chapter 74 to the City of Florence, Kentucky's Code of Ordinances. This ordinance addresses motor vehicle queuing onto public streets and rights-of-way from commercial, industrial, and non-residential properties. The ordinance provides that enforcement shall be implemented through the existing City Code Enforcement Board. The ordinance sets forth civil penalties for violations of the ordinance. The ordinance is intended to promote the safe and efficient movement of traffic onto public streets and rights-of-way within the city. The full text of Ordinance 011-2026, including its exhibits, is available for examination in the office of the City Clerk of the City of Florence, Kentucky, in the Florence Government Center, 8100 Ewing Boulevard, during regular office hours. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Wynn?
Second.
Second by Ms. Wingo. Is there any discussion? Ms. Whalen?
I continue to struggle with this, trying to understand the process and how it works, trying to understand if it's a single violation, if there are 10 cars in the right-of-way, or if it's 10 violations, trying to figure out when this occurs. Somebody's got to call code enforcement, and do they then come out and have to take photographic evidence in order to submit a citation to the business. Same thing with thinking about the truck stop in particular. When they line up on Burlington Pike, and sometimes there's 10 or 12 trucks deep trying to turn right into the truck stop, as well as trucks coming out at the light blocking access to Burlington Pike going westbound. So are those individual violations, multiple violations? Not all trucks are going to want to turn. I'm having a really, really hard time with this one because there's already legal reasons why they can't impede the right-of-way. And we're now adding to that a civil violation on top of that, adding to the duties of code enforcement and who calls them and how all of that's done in a timely fashion. So I need some help.
All right, let's see if we can help you. So a lot of questions in there. I guess let's start with, if there was 10 cars stacked on a public right-of-way, is that one citation or is that 10? That would be one citation. The police officer's discretion at that point in time, and I'm not a police officer, so Chief, if I overstate this, please correct me, but it would be up to the police officer's discretion if there's people actually stacked out into the road, if those individual drivers were cited, and that's been on the books for a long time. That's nothing new. In terms of the actual issuance of the fine, that would be handled by code enforcement. So the first responders' activity or their responsibility for an issue that would come up would be to immediately correct the issue. They go to the business owner and say, you need to block off your curb cut. You are putting people's life in jeopardy, which at the end of the day, that's what this ordinance is all about. It's about life safety. Public roads are not an extension of a private business's activity, and that's a pretty standard fundamental in all site plan review, and it's been on the books for a very, very long time. So code would be in charge of issuing the citations. So the police officer could take pictures, and the code would follow up with the citation and enforcing of that, that next business day. Ultimately, and I know that there's been a lot of focus on fines with this, and I guess I can see that, but that's not what this is about. I have dealt with stacking issues for years, and they take years to resolve. And I can tell you I've been personally successful at, and I don't want to name businesses, but correcting these issues, and they take years to work through. This ordinance not only prevents life safety issues, but it gives us the ability to address these things heads-on and require these businesses to address the issues immediately. Sometimes it's as simple as putting yellow ballards in a stacking lane that prevents cars to stack around the building in a different direction. That solved a few of our issues. Sometimes it's much more. They have to go back through the site plan process. They have to add additional stacking lanes. Civil engineers need to be involved. So it's really complex, and it's a site-by-site, case-by-case scenario, depending on how we deal with these. And I'll reiterate, the biggest thing is it allows one of the biggest things, it allows the police officers and the first responders to immediately make our roads safe. And I don't know how people can't get on board with that aspect of the ordinance.
Don't they already have that ability?
No. I mean, we can't go up and
If someone's blocking the roadway, yeah, we can cite them, that individual driver for blocking the roadway. This ordinance is going for the business who is allowing their customers to back up onto the roadway. So if the first person trying to get in the business is blocking, and say the second person wants to go straight, and the third person's trying to get into the business, so we're gonna go through each car and say, where are you going? And if they tell us, well, I'm going straight, okay, you don't get a ticket. This is to prevent the business, or to hold the business responsible for having cars stack out on the roadway and blocking the roadway.
And I'll add this. I've been monitoring this for a very long time. There is certainly nuisance activities that these businesses, the way in which they are operating their business is directly causing this. Case in point, totally hypothetical, but let's throw a few out there. Say my peak period is 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and I know I need 20 people to operate that store efficiently for that peak period, but 10 show up. And I choose, it's a business decision to choose to go ahead and operate that business as is, knowing that it's going to cause life safety issues on a public street. That's a direct result of a business's decision. Another one is giveaways. Lot of examples with this. Knowing that if you're going to do these giveaways, it is going to block a half-mile down a public street. You're choosing net profits over life safety at that point. That is unacceptable. And many members of the community have stated that that is unacceptable. This ordinance addresses that.
So the police would be called, not code enforcement, and you would have the opportunity then to not only take the photographs to forward to code, but to actually, at that point, block the entrance to the building and stop the traffic from going in there. And that's the response that would occur regardless of what business it is, like I said, up to and including the truck stop, which has been a pain in everybody's backside for years and years and years.
Yeah, and I want to address that. I really didn't want to get into talking about specific businesses. This is not about one business. I know a lot of people like to try to make it about one business. This is a handful of businesses and more of a use category, high turnover use category. It is something that I'm looking to address head on in the zoning regulations as well. But specifically with TA, since it's been addressed here, a lot of those issues with outgoing traffic flow. This ordinance will not solve that. We cannot go after a business for how a vehicle chooses to block an intersection. That is 100% a police issue there. There has been instances where other gas stations, let's put it this way, let's make it hypothetical, that say I have 12 pumps and only one's in operation, versus shutting that one pump down and putting a sign up saying no fuel, I choose to keep that one pump in operation, and that causes traffic queuing all the way down the street. That business is negligent at that point in time. And we have real examples of that happening in the city, causing major issues, major life safety issues on public streets. This ordinance addresses that. Will it solve some of the issues with TA? No. TA has been around for a very long time. It's pre-existing non-conforming in many ways, especially from a zoning aspect. But it can, in certain scenarios, address specific issues.
Can you explain pre-existing non-conforming, just because a lot of people are
Well, I hate to be-
interested in this? But
Yeah.
there was some comments that I'd heard about, businesses shouldn't have been approved, but
Well-
for a perfect example, is the truck stop was here before I was born.
Sure.
So
So
it's not
pre-exist-
always about what businesses are approved.
Correct. So pre-existing non-conforming, in a very layman's term, it would be, TA's example, it predates zoning regulations. So it doesn't matter what zoning regulations we pass on top of it. It doesn't apply to TA because they were here before the zoning regulations. It's non-conforming use category or uses or conditional uses. So when you get into some of these older properties within the city and people, TA in a lot of ways is not really fair to target. It was here before anything. It was probably the center of commerce for one point in time. But a majority of what they do there, if not all, is pre-existing non-conforming to many of the regulations that are on the books. And that goes for a variety of different businesses throughout the city.
And
It is pre-existing non-conforming, but if there are vehicles blocking traffic,
Yes,
they are
ma'am.
still subject to police enforcement.
They are, and in that example, if you're down to one pump and you choose to make that business decision to keep that one pump open, knowing it's going to block down the road, you're now subject to this ordinance, which is the intent of it. You know, this is to address issues that have been going on in the city for years, and I've handled a handful of these. They take years to resolve. With the stuff that's on the books now, you can only go after zoning. This ordinance is another workaround, and I can assure you, we're doing the zoning update now. We will be addressing zoning in a very different way to handle some of these high turnover use categories that many times are allowed by right. And that's something else that people don't understand. Zoning is very complex. People don't understand what is allowed by rights, what can go in. They don't understand encroachment permits. They don't understand state approvals versus what the city can do and what we can legally can and cannot do when it comes to those approvals. Every site, every parcel property is specific. There could be pre-existing site plans. There's 100 different issues with each site, and it's very unique and it's very complex. And we have to follow the letter of the law when we deal with zoning on those matters. But I will be addressing the zoning aspect of this in the upcoming zoning regulations. That's another tool.
anyone else on council have any
In some instances, in my heart of hearts, I believe that is the case. You can make a business decision not to give away certain thing. I mean, think about it. Like, you ever go to a Black Friday shopping, you know, and you go in, they got all these deals advertised, and they got 2 cash registers open. Who's at fault there? Is it the patrons that are going for the deal, or is it the business for having 2 cash registers open? Same premise.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Wingo?
Yes.
Ms. Chambers?
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
Ms. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Ms. Cable?
Yes.
Mayor, motion passes 6-0.